Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So I just want to take these few moments to reflect on something which is just a part of life. I believe that most of us, it's human nature, when there are things that are wrong in the world, when there are things that are wrong in our lives, we want to see them resolved. We just want to see the problems solved so that we can move on. And unfortunately, as we often realize, problems that are complex are generally not fully resolved if they are resolved at all. And I found myself thinking of this, strangely enough, on Tisha B'Av night, so this was Monday, and we were reading Eicha, the Book of Lamentations, and I had a connection between the music of the chanting and this concept of resolution. So I'll tell you what I mean. So most of the chapters were read by members of our congregation using a standard Ashkenazi trope. And I'll chant the final verse using that trope to give you a flavor of where I'm going. The words, Hashkivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva chadesh yameinu kekedem, translated, help us turn to you, Adonai, and we shall return, renew our lives as in days of old. So how is it chanted according to the Ashkenazi tradition? Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva chadesh yameinu kekedem. And at the very end, it's even chadesh yameinu kekedem. Okay? Now, Rachel Matzliach graced us with a melody that she learned from her father for the conclusion of Eicha, a melody that comes from the Baghdadi tradition. It was brought to Calcutta in India. And I'm not going to get it perfect, but I'll give a sense of it. Rachel, you can help me out. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva chadesh yameinu kekedem. So this struck my ear, both of them, very differently. The first gives a kind of resolution. You are ending chadesh yameinu kekedem. And the other, it sort of trails off. It's very haunting in a way. It is lacking the resolution. And so I thought to myself, this is interesting. Sometimes we provide resolution that is not a full resolution. It's sort of a forced resolution. So I want to reflect on that. So as I often do, I'll just refer for a moment to larger events, and then I'll bring it to the personal. So larger events. So of course, we are hoping that Israel will ultimately be able to reach some resolution in Gaza. And Israel speaks of completely destroying Hamas, which makes sense. It sounds like a good goal to me, but Israelis understand, most people understand, that full destruction is not possible, that full degradation is not possible. And now, because things are so crazy and so complicated, you have situations, who would have imagined that the head of the Palestinian Authority, who's been quiet for the last months and months and months, is talking with the leader of Turkey and seeing if they can put something together, which doesn't sound like a great idea to me. But what you see is that full resolution is elusive. And Israel sits really at the cornerstone of West and East. In the West, we like to speak of resolution. In the West, we fight the war to end all wars. Very few people in the Middle East would even use that expression, the war to end all wars? Really? We're going to resolve things with the war to end all wars? So Israel sits at the place where East and West coincide, aspires to resolution, understands that in this neighborhood, full resolution is not going to be possible. And so a strategy that weakens Hamas, a strategy that considers what's next diplomatically, is the best that you can do. Now, one can talk more and more about the geopolitical, but I'll move on to the personal. In our own lives, our own foibles, our own shortcomings and inconsistencies, they don't get fully resolved. It's nice to be able to talk them through, to have the help of professionals. We can make progress, but full resolution is generally elusive. And that's our own stuff. Try to resolve the issues, the problems, the shortcomings of somebody else. Good luck to you. So recognizing that resolution is elusive invites us to take a more realistic perspective. We do the best that we can, understanding that things won't get completely resolved. I want to share with you a lovely story, a sweet story that was told about a couple that were leaving Russia, a Jewish couple, and making Aliyah to the land of Israel. So this took place when the only form of travel was travel either by land or by boat. So this couple leaves Russia, they're on a boat, and they are heading to the land of Israel. And they see land off in the distance. Probably it was the port of Haifa. So the husband turns to his wife and says, "Sweetheart, there is the promised land. We are about to enter the promised land, and our tzoris is over." Now, he used the word tzoris, which is the Ashkenazi Yiddish way of pronouncing the Hebrew word for trouble. Our troubles are over. And she turns to him, looking at the coast of Israel, and says, "That's right, sweetheart. Our tzoris is over, but our tzarot are just beginning," using the Sephardi Israeli pronunciation. In other words, there's not going to be full resolution. You're going to go from one set of issues to another set of issues, and this is just part of the human condition. So Moses is told, "Al tosef teberilai od badavar hazeh." Don't talk to me about entering the promised land. He begs with God to enter the promised land. And God says you can look at it, and you need to charge Joshua with taking over. God provided a kind of resolution, but it wasn't the resolution that Moses wanted. Moses wanted to enter into this land. He worked his whole life to help bring this people from slavery to freedom. And now he's told, you're not going to get everything that you want. But at that moment of recognizing that he was not going to achieve full resolution, he started to take the measures necessary in order to teach the people and to be able to hand them off to a new generation. We recently heard the Jewish governor of Pennsylvania quote Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers, when he spoke about his own work and everyone's work. I'll give you the Hebrew. He said it in English, "Lo alecha hamalacha ligmor," you're not going to finish the work, "Velo ata ben chorin lihibatel mimenu," but you can't step away from the work. So I say to each of us, recognizing that some of the most important things in the world and in our lives are not fully resolvable, let's commit to continuing to do the work. So when we say Hashivenu, help us to return and renew our lives, we don't say resolve our lives. We say renew our lives. And as an aspiration and as a guiding star, I'll take it. May God give us the strength, not necessarily to resolve, but to renew. Amen.